Once an API backend behind a rich client app has been discovered, it opens up a whole new world of possibilities for an attacker. Now they've learned of the presence of a website, and once they know that a website exists, many of the same vulnerabilities that we're used to looking for in an HTML-based website may well be present in one that just serves JSON or XML. So think about the sort of things that I talked about in the Hack Yourself First course. Things like SQL injection, the number one risk on the web today. That's often present in APIs. Unhandled exceptions disclosing internal implementations. That's another good one. And even down to things like response headers disclosing the underlying frameworks. Once the API is discovered, all of these risks are now on the table as possible attack vectors. But there's another one I want to talk about now as well, and it's one that's more particular to APIs, and that is the disclosure and consequent discovery of APIs based on automatically generated help documentation. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to flick back over to the vulnerable website. This is the one we saw earlier on in the course in the introduction. And what I want to show you is something that's increasingly common, and that's simply these automated API documentation resources. Now, whilst they're prevalent in many different server-side frameworks, the particular app that I'm dealing with here is an ASP.NET MVC app. And that's easily discoverable. I can just jump into the developer tools. It's already on the network tab. Reload the page to make another request. I'm just going to go up and look at the first response. And if I scroll down towards the bottom, I will very clearly see that it is an ASP.NET MVC 5.1 application. All of that information is very easy to find. Now, one of the things that I know about ASP.NET MVC is that it commonly uses Web API in order to create services served over HTTP and returning JSON. Now, one of the things I also know is that it frequently uses the help pages package in order to auto-generate help packages. And in fact, I know exactly where this resource normally is. And it's not any special insider knowledge, this is just simply how the framework works. And it's over here. Let's just go /help. And what we can now see is the ASP.NET Web API help page. Very, very simple stuff. And we can now see all of the APIs that are in the system in this nice auto-generated documentation. Now, we have already seen the Supercar API. We've seen it in this module. We saw the GET request to the leaderboard. It passed through a limit results value. It was 8 earlier on. We also saw a GET request when we drilled down on the Supercar. This is the one that was the leaky API. It was returning too much information. But here's something new that we haven't seen before. Admin API. There is an admin facility here. We've only been able to learn of its presence due to the fact that this automatically generated documentation exists. And in fact, we can see here that it's just a simple GET request. /API /admin /users. We can drill down into the documentation of this API, and we can now see that it returns a collection of user profile. What does user profile have in it? Well, some pretty sensitive stuff by the look of it. Email, first and last name, whether they're an admin or not, and their password. Here's what the JSON response even looks like. A nice little sample. Now we can then scroll up. We'll take that path, drop it on the clipboard, and paste it. It's just a GET request, so we should just be able to drop it straight into the browser. And here's something very concerning. The API is doing just what it says it will do. It's going out and getting users, including email addresses and passwords. Password, 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 password. This is clearly a serious risk. It also happens. It happens a lot. The automatically generated documentation is very handy during the development process. It gives you a very clear list of all the APIs in your project. It also gives the attacker a very clear list of all the APIs in your project. And that is a very worrying development. Now we'll come back and discuss how to secure this a little bit later on in this module. I'd like to move on now and show you another common pattern that exposes the presence of APIs that may enable an attacker to exploit the system. Let's go and take a look at that now.